Hello and welcome to this video looking at how to use some Photoshop PSD Mock-up files. Now, Affinity Photo and Designer can use PSD files. You may not be able to use almost 100% of all the features within it, but you should pretty much be able to use a lot of it. Now, the idea for this video came about because a lady on one of the Facebook groups, she'd brought a mock-up of, it was some bed and some pillows, and she wanted to be able to remove the pillows from the image, or at least one of them. And I was trying to help her just by writing comments in the Facebook group about how to do it, but she's obviously a beginner with photo editing in general and using PSD files particularly, so I thought it easier to help her and other beginners try and work out how to use a PSD file for their own usage. Now, to help with this, I found this particular one, which is by Photoshop Supply, and as you can see, there are 40 movable objects, 2 backgrounds. I mean, I know Christmas has been and gone, but it can still be used for future use, and it is only for demonstration purposes for this particular video. So there's plenty of information here about what you can and can't do, what is available, and basically all you do is you come down to the bottom, click on free download, and it will ask you for your email address, and then it will send you the link to download from that email address. The only downside for this, for me personally anyway, it took me half an hour to download this particular file. I think it was 137 megabytes. I don't know quite why it took so long, but they do other freebies, not just mock-ups. They also do a New Year mock-up, which is free. But as you can see, they do brushes, which can be used in Affinity, icons possibly, mock-ups obviously, patterns and textures can be used in Affinity, vector shapes can be used as well. But probably the only really thing you can't use here is actions. So Photo Supplies is a good place to go to look for some freebies that you can use in Affinity products. So I will add a link to the main page for a Photoshop Supply rather than this particular mock-up. So getting on to using the mock-up. Now when it downloads, it will download as a zip file, and all you need to do is extract it, which I've done here, and also do a virus check just to make sure. But when I've opened this up, they're supplied with 2 PSD files, one just called Christmas Mockup and one Christmas Objects. So I'm going to look at the Christmas Objects one first. So this will open up in Affinity Photo. Like I said, you should be able to use this in Designer as well, but I'm using Photo. Now the first thing you'll see is this sort of advert and acknowledgement for photoshopsupply.com. Now the easiest way, you just get rid of this, because this is the very top layer. If you just, this tick here, if you just remove that tick, you will see everything that is underneath it, which is all the objects all nicely placed. There below this we have some adjustments grouped together, we have the objects grouped together, the frame elements grouped together, and the background. So I'm going to ignore the adjustments for now. So if I open up the objects group, as you can see they're just called group 1, group 2, group 3, so you don't necessarily know which item is in which group. Some PSDs will name every layer to make it obvious, and some don't. The best way to find out really is to come to the Move tool and click on an object that you want, let's say that particular one there, and that will open up or highlight the group that is in. So we still need to find where that particular one is. So if I double click again on that box, it has now put a bounding box around group 2. So if I open up group 2, I can come down and find the particular one, which I think is that one. So that was the one I was after. So if I didn't want that particular element, I can just turn it off. Or if I wanted it somewhere else within the picture, because we are on the move tool, I can put it somewhere else in the picture, and I can resize it if I want. And say for example I wanted to put this behind the frame, we would then need to move it out of this group and below the frame. So to do that, I'm going to click and hold on the icon, and I'm going to drag it downwards until it is under the frame group. So that is now behind the frame. So that is how you can find objects within a PSD file, move them about, resize them, hide them, just by, it's easiest to, I find, to use the move tool to find the one you're looking for, and in some cases like double click to find the particular group that is in, open up the group, and then find the one you're looking for, and then make your alterations or hide it, use it, whatever you want to do. So that is how I personally would do it. Other people may do it other ways, but that is the best way for me to use a PSD file. Now if I hide all of these groups, where is it? That group. I'm missing a group. Here we go. That one. So I just have the frame left. Let me get rid of that one I put at the background there. So I will leave the frame and the two beads that are there. And if I wanted to put a picture into the frame, first you will need a picture. So I've just got this one open here. So I will right click on the background and copy it, come back to my PSD file, and we want this, let me shut some of these groups, it takes up less space. It is the frame file that we want, and I'm going to put it, I'm going to click on the shape, and I'm going to edit and paste that image into the frame group. Now this image is much bigger than the frame, so first of all what I need to do is resize this down. I'm just holding the control button while I'm doing this so it keeps its proportions, and just bring this up a little bit. Right. Now, as you can see, it is bigger than the frame, so we need to sort of get it to fit inside the frame. So I'm going to again click on the icon for this and keep that button held, and then I'm going to move this. Yes, I need to move it into the shape. So I've moved it down so I have this blue horizontal line just coming to the edge of the shape icon. Now different PSDs will name it differently, so it's a case of finding the right one. You come off the move tool to get rid of that box. So now that picture is now inside the frame and you can't see the edges that is around it. So you could then come back and sort of bring back certain items that you may want on here. So let's say, for example, where are we, group 3, the apple. Come to the move tool and move that and put it wherever you want. And if you don't want any of the other ones in that particular group, you can just hide them, so you've only got the apple. So basically that is how you would use the PSD file in this particular Christmas objects one. So I'll close that down. I won't save it, and if you are going to save it under a new name, so you've always got your original file and you're not going to lose it. But I don't want to save this, so I'll just shut that down, and we'll come back and have a look at the other mock-up PSD file. It's going to be pretty similar. Again, you've got the same setups here. Again, the top one is the advert, which you can shut down, and this time all the elements are sort of, and objects are all over the place and different sizes. So it's just a case of very similar idea of shutting down all the ones you don't want. Now this time they're not grouped together, they're just all individual items. So it's probably easier to click on the first item in that objects group, move this down until you get to the last item, hold down the shift key and click on that one, and it will highlight all of those in that group, and then you can just click on one of the ticks and it will remove all of them. Now the only problem there was it also removed the frame, but I'm not going to worry about that so much at the moment. Let me just bring them all back, because I want to look at the bottom group, which is backgrounds. Now in the first PSD you only had the one background, but in this one you have 3 different backgrounds. You've got this blue background, which is the one that is highlighted, or you can have this wood paneling background, or you can have this chalkboard background. So it's just a case of whichever one you turn on that you want will be the one that you can use. So again, it's just a case of, oh, there's the frame one. So if I turn off all of these like I did before, come down to the bottom one, hold down shift, turn them all off, and then come back up to the frame, which is that one, I believe. There we go. Turn the frame back on. So you could then start to find one that you want to do, just turn it on, come to the move tool, make sure that is the object that you want. Now at this moment in time, this orange one is below the frame layer. If you want it to be above the frame layer, you would have to click and drag and move this upwards so it is somewhere above the frame layer. So if I do that, like there, So that is now above the frame, whereas before it was below the frame. So hopefully this gives you some idea of how to use a Photoshop PSD file. I think that Photoshop also does do EPS files, which will work in a similar way. Some mock-ups come in both versions, but mainly they come in PSD versions. So hopefully this will help explain, especially to beginners, how you can use a mock-up by changing elements and objects, by either turning them on, turning them off, resizing them, to use it however you want. That's the whole point of a mock-up. It only gives you the basic tools, you then do whatever you want with it. Now there are these adjustments, not all PSDs have them, but these are, we've got a gradient map. These should work in Affinity Photo. Let's just try the levels one. Yeah, see, it does bring up the levels adjustment. Let me delete that one. What about the gradient map? Well, I didn't mean to delete it, but yeah, so you also got the gradient map there. So now these two are not turned on. Let me turn this on. What is that doing? Oh, it's just a selective color. It's just made that orange a bit more orange. Let me turn that off. And the silver one, again, it changes the color to silver. So you've got adjustments in there that you can also use in Affinity Photo Designer. Like I said, some adjustments don't always work in Affinity because they work in different ways in Photoshop than they do in Affinity, but in this particular cases these seem to work okay. So hopefully this will be of some help, especially to beginners. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.